The grip on my bicep was not aggressive, but it was absolute. It was the kind of hold that communicated a transfer of power from my will to his authority. I had been reaching for my passport in the side pocket of my leather tote when the man in the dark suit intercepted me. He steered me away from the flow of passengers at SeaTac International Airport and toward a nondescript maintenance corridor. His movement was fluid and practiced, a dance he had led many times before. "Smile and keep walking, Mrs. Vance. Do not look back at them." The command was whispered directly into my ear. It was intimate and terrifying. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a stark contrast to the sterile calm of the terminal. I did not look back at Chloe and Julian standing near the check-in kiosk. I simply let my suitcase glide across the polished terrazzo floor, as if this detour were the most natural thing in the world. We passed through a heavy steel door that clicked shut with a finality that made my stomach turn. The ambient noise of the airport, the announcements, the chatter of families, the rolling wheels of luggage, vanished instantly. In its place was the hum of industrial ventilation and the harsh buzzing of fluorescent tubes. "I am Detective Silas Grant." The man released my arm. He was younger than I expected, perhaps in his late 30s, with eyes that looked like they had seen too much of the world's darkness. He stood with a posture that was both relaxed and coiled, ready to strike. "We do not have much time, Evelyn. May I call you Evelyn?" I nodded. My throat felt like it was stuffed with cotton. I could not form words. "Please sit." There was only a metal table and 2 chairs bolted to the floor. I sat. The cold of the metal seeped through my trousers, grounding me in this bizarre reality. Detective Grant placed a tablet on the table and slid it toward me. "Your daughter Chloe and her husband Julian are planning to murder you this weekend." The sentence hung in the air. It was absurd. It was a grotesque joke. I waited for the punchline. I waited for him to tell me this was a security screening, a mistake, a test, but his face remained impassive. I stared at the tablet. It was a black mirror reflecting my own confused face. Then he tapped the screen. An audio recording began to play. The voices were distorted by static but unmistakable. "We have to do it at the ravine. It looks like a slip. No barriers." That was Julian. His voice was shaky, higher pitched than usual. "Are you sure the policy pays out for accidental death immediately?" That was Chloe. My Chloe. Her voice was steady, practical, cold. "Yes." I checked the fine print. "Double indemnity for accidents. We clear the debt and have enough to start over in Portland." I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands, resting on the table, began to tremble violently. I pulled them into my lap to hide the weakness. "This is a mistake." "It is not a mistake, Evelyn." Detective Grant swiped the screen. A document appeared. It was a life insurance policy issued 20 days ago. The beneficiary was Chloe Vance Mercer. The sum was $2 million. The signature at the bottom was mine, an elegant script I had perfected over 40 years as an architect. But I had never seen this document before. "They forged your signature. We have forensic confirmation." "Why?" The word ripped out of my throat, raw and painful. "Gambling. Julian is in deep with a syndicate operating out of Tacoma. He owes $300,000. They have given him a deadline of next Tuesday. If he does not pay, they promise to kill him and your daughter." My mind raced back to the last few months. The subtle changes, Julian's frantic energy, Chloe's sudden attentiveness, the way she had insisted on this trip. "A getaway," she had said. "Just the 3 of us to reconnect after Thomas died. Mom, you need this. Dad would want you to get some fresh air." She had used her father's memory as a weapon. Detective Grant leaned forward, his voice dropping an octave. "We have been surveilling the syndicate for months. That is how we picked up Julian on the wiretaps. We know the plan. They are taking you to a rental property on the Olympic Peninsula. Isolated, rugged terrain. They plan to stage a hiking accident at a place called Solitude Point." I felt bile rise in my throat. I stood up, knocking the chair back. The noise echoed loudly in the small room. "Arrest them. Arrest them right now." "We cannot." "What do you mean you cannot?" "You have the recording. You have the forgery. It is conspiracy. A good lawyer will argue it was just talk, a venting of frustration. The forgery is a white-collar crime. They would get probation. They would be out in 6 months, and they would still be desperate. They would still need the money, and next time we won't be listening. I stared at him. The logic was cold and ironclad. We need an overt act. We need them to attempt the crime. We need to catch them in the moment of execution. That carries a mandatory sentence of 25 years to life. You want me to go with them? I want you to help us save your life. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black device, no larger than a coin. This is a tracker and a high-fidelity microphone. We need you to wear it. We need you to get on that plane, rent the car, and go to the cabin. We need you to let them take you to the cliff. And then we stop them. We will have a tactical team shadowing you from the moment you leave the airport. We will be in the woods. We will be watching. You just need to say the phrase, "I forgot my medication." That is the kill code. As soon as you say it, we move in. I looked at the device. It looked innocuous, a piece of plastic, but it was the only thing standing between me and the abyss. I thought about Thomas, my husband of 38 years. He had been the soft one, the heart of our family. I had been the spine, the discipline, the planner. When he died of a stroke 6 months ago, I felt like the foundation of my life had cracked. Chloe had been there. She had held me. She had cried with me. Was it all a lie? Was she calculating my net worth while shoveling dirt onto her father's coffin? I cannot do it. I cannot look her in the eye, knowing she wants me dead. You have to. Because if you do not, they win. They kill you, or the loan sharks kill them. This is the only way everyone survives, even if they survive behind bars. I took a deep breath. I smoothed the front of my silk blouse. I was Evelyn Vance. I had designed skyscrapers that withstood earthquakes. I had managed construction crews of 200 men. I was not a victim. Show me where to put it. Detective Grant nodded. He pinned the device inside the lining of my blazer, near the lapel. He tested the frequency. Clear. Remember, Evelyn. Act normal. Do not change your routine. If they suspect you know, the situation becomes volatile. I walked out of that room a different person than the one who had entered. The noise of the airport assaulted me again, but now it sounded distant, like I was hearing it underwater. I saw them waiting by the gate. Chloe was checking her phone, her thumb scrolling incessantly. Julian was pacing, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Mom!" Chloe looked up and smiled. It was a dazzling smile, the same smile she had used to get out of trouble when she was 6. "You disappeared. We were worried. Just a security check, darling." Something about the metal in my hip replacement. I lied smoothly. It was terrifying how easy it was. Julian grabbed my suitcase. His hand brushed mine. His skin was clammy. "We should board. We do not want to miss the flight." We walked down the jet bridge. I looked at the back of my daughter's head. I looked at her vulnerable neck, the way her hair curled slightly at the nape. I remembered braiding that hair. I remembered the smell of her baby shampoo. I felt a tear slide down my cheek, and I wiped it away before anyone could see. I was walking into a trap set by my own blood. The flight to Seattle was a blur of white noise and turbulence. I sat by the window. Chloe sat in the middle. Julian took the aisle. They offered me snacks. They asked if I was comfortable. Every kindness felt like a knife. We rented a large SUV at the airport. Julian drove. We took the ferry across the Sound, the gray water churning beneath us. The sky was a bruised purple, heavy with rain. It was fitting. The drive to the Olympic Peninsula took 3 hours. The deeper we went into the forest, the taller the trees became. The Douglas firs and Sitka spruces loomed over the road like silent sentinels, blocking out the light. The cell service bars on my phone dropped one by one until there was nothing. "We are really out here, aren't we?" Julian said, his voice trying for cheerfulness but landing on hysteria. "That is the point." Chloe turned to look at me in the back seat. "To disconnect, to heal." I smiled. It felt like a rictus mask. "It is beautiful." The house was a masterpiece of modern architecture dropped into the middle of the wilderness. Glass walls, steel beams, cantilevered over a rushing river. It was the kind of house I used to admire in magazines. Now it looked like a cage. We unpacked. I claimed the master bedroom on the main floor. Chloe and Julian took the loft upstairs. I checked the bathroom, the closets. I was looking for cameras, for microphones, for the tactical team Detective Grant had promised. I saw nothing, just rain streaking against the floor-to-ceiling windows. Dinner was a tense affair. Chloe made pasta. Julian opened a bottle of red wine. He poured 3 glasses. He set one in front of me with a little too much flourish. To family. He raised his glass. To family, Chloe echoed. I lifted the glass. I watched the dark liquid swirl. I thought about the sedatives they might have crushed into it, or perhaps something stronger. I cannot. I set the glass down. My stomach is still upset from the flight. Come on, Mom. Just a sip. It will help you relax. Chloe pushed the glass toward me. No, I said it sharply. Then I softened my tone. I will just have water. Julian exchanged a look with Chloe. It was a micro-expression, a flicker of frustration. I would have missed it yesterday. Today, it screamed at me. After dinner, I retreated to my room. I told them I was exhausted. I locked the door. I changed into my pajamas, but I did not get into bed. I sat in the armchair facing the window, staring into the impenetrable darkness of the forest. I touched the microphone pinned to my discarded blazer. Are you there? I whispered. There was no answer. Of course there wasn't. It was a one-way transmission. I was speaking into the void, hoping someone was listening. I could not sleep. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every rustle of the wind sounded like a threat. Around 2 a.m., I heard the floorboards above me groan, then the soft thud of feet on the stairs. I crept to my door and pressed my ear against the wood. She did not drink the wine. It was Julian. It does not matter. We stick to the plan. Tomorrow, the hike. I can't do this, Chloe. She is your mother. Do you want to die, Julian? Do you want them to cut off your fingers one by one? Because that is what they told you they would do. Silence. She has had a good life. She misses Dad. We are doing her a favor. The coldness of her logic froze the marrow in my bones. Doing me a favor. As if murder were an act of mercy. I moved away from the door. I needed proof. Detective Grant had said they needed an overt act, but my architect's brain needed structural evidence. I needed to see the blueprint of my demise. I waited until the house fell silent again. I waited another hour. Then I opened my door. The hinges were well oiled. I moved like a ghost through the darkened living room. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a heavy, dripping silence. I saw Julian's backpack on the kitchen island. I unzipped it slowly. Inside, there was a coil of rope, a heavy flashlight, and a folder. I opened the folder. It contained the insurance policy, the forged signature, and a map. A topographic map of the local trails. A red circle was drawn around Solitude Point, a sheer drop of 300 feet into a rocky ravine. I took out my phone and photographed the documents. My hands were shaking so bad the first few images were blurry. I forced myself to breathe. In, out, focus. I took clear pictures of everything. Then I saw the burner phone tucked in the side pocket of the bag. I turned it on. There was a text thread. Unknown number. Friday is the deadline. Do not make us come find you. Julian, it is happening tomorrow. We will have the money next week. Unknown number. Proof. Send proof when it is done. I photographed the screen. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I retreated to my room and locked the door. I sat on the bed and wept. I did not weep for my life. I wept for the little girl who used to bring me dandelions. I wept for the teenager I had taught to drive. I wept for the failure of my own motherhood. I had raised a monster. Or perhaps I had failed to see the monster growing right in front of me. Thomas had always spoiled her. He gave her everything she wanted. I was the one who said no. I was the one who demanded grades, discipline, responsibility. I thought I was teaching her character, but maybe I was just teaching her resentment. Morning came with a pale, watery light. The fog was thick, wrapping the house in gray cotton. Chloe knocked on my door at 8 a.m. Rise and shine, Mom. The weather is clearing up. Perfect for our hike. I dressed in my hiking gear, sturdy boots, waterproof pants, and the blazer with the microphone hidden beneath a rain shell. I looked in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes rimmed with red. I looked like a woman walking to the gallows. I opened the door. Good morning, darling. Breakfast was an ordeal. I chewed toast that tasted like sawdust. I drank coffee that tasted like ash. Julian was manic, talking too loud, laughing at nothing. Chloe was focused, checking the weather, checking the route. We set out at 10 a.m. The air was crisp, smelling of pine needles and damp earth. The trail started behind the house, winding up through the dense forest. "It is about 2 miles to the lookout," Chloe said. "It is an easy grade." I walked between them. Julian in front, Chloe behind. I was the prisoner being escorted to execution. The forest was magnificent and indifferent. Massive ferns carpeted the forest floor. Moss draped from the branches like old lace. It was a primeval landscape, a place where life and death were constantly cycling. My hip began to ache. I slowed down. "Are you okay, Mom?" Chloe asked. Her voice sounded concerned. It was a terrifying performance. "Just a little stiff. I will be fine." We walked for an hour. The trail grew steeper. The trees began to thin. We were approaching the ridgeline. I started to talk. I needed to fill the silence. I needed to understand. "Do you remember when you were 10, Chloe? When you broke Mrs. Gable's window with a baseball?" Chloe paused. "Why are you bringing that up?" "You were so scared. You hid in the closet for hours. You thought I would be furious. You were furious. You made me mow her lawn for a month to pay for it. I wanted you to learn the value of money. I wanted you to understand consequences. Yeah, well, you taught me. Money is everything. Without it, you are nothing." "Is that what you learned?" I asked softly. "That is what you showed me, Mom. You and Dad. The big house, the cars, the private schools. You bought your way out of problems. You bought comfort. We worked for that comfort, Chloe. We built it, and now it is just sitting there, hoarded, while we struggle, while we drown. So you think you are entitled to it?" "I think families help each other. I think mothers are supposed to save their children." The venom in her voice was shocking. It wasn't just greed. It was hate. It was a lifetime of perceived slights, of feeling inadequate, of feeling judged. We reached the clearing. Solitude Point lived up to its name. It was a rocky outcropping that jutted out over the valley. The fog swirled below us, obscuring the bottom of the ravine. It was a white void. "This is it," Julian said. His voice cracked. He walked to the edge. He looked down. He looked sick. "Come look, Mom. The view is incredible." I walked toward the edge. I could feel the microphone pressing against my chest. I wondered where the tactical team was. Were they in the trees? Were they watching through scopes? Or was I truly alone? I stopped 5 feet from the edge. "It is beautiful," I said. Julian moved to my left. Chloe moved to my right. They were boxing me in. "Mom," Chloe said. Her voice was trembling now. "I am sorry." "Sorry for what?" "For everything. For not being the daughter you wanted. For messing up. You can fix mistakes, Chloe. You can always start over. Not this time. This time it is too big. It is the gambling, isn't it? The debt." She froze. "How do you know?" "I am your mother. I know everything. I know about the $300,000. I know about the threats." Julian started to cry. A pathetic, whimpering sound. "We do not have a choice, Mrs. Vance. They will kill us. So you kill me instead? That is the trade? My life for yours?" "You have lived your life," Chloe screamed. The facade broke. The calm evaporated. It was just raw desperation now. "You had your career. You had Dad. You had everything. We have nothing. We are going to lose the house, the cars, everything. So ask me for help. Ask me for the money." We did, in roundabout ways. You always lectured us. You always talked about responsibility. We knew you would say no, or you would give it to us with so many strings attached it would strangle us. You never gave me the chance. "It is too late for chances." Julian wiped his nose. "It is Friday. We are out of time." They stepped closer. I could see the muscles in Julian's legs tensing. He was preparing to lunge. Chloe reached out. She touched my shoulder. It was almost a caress. "It will be quick, Mom. You won't feel anything. Just a slip. A tragic accident." I looked at my daughter. I looked into her eyes and saw the abyss. She was gone. The child I loved was gone, consumed by greed and fear. I stepped back. My heel caught on a root. I stumbled. Julian lunged. "I forgot my medication," I screamed the words. Julian's hands were inches from my chest. Police, get down! The forest exploded. Men in camouflage dropped from the trees. Men burst from the undergrowth. Red laser dots danced across Julian's chest. Freeze! Hands in the air! Julian screamed and threw himself to the ground, covering his head. Chloe stood paralyzed. She looked at me, then at the armed men, then back at me. Her face crumpled. Mom? Get down! A tactical officer tackled her. He forced her face into the dirt. He cuffed her hands behind her back. I stood there, gasping for air, the adrenaline coursing through my veins like ice water. Detective Grant emerged from the tree line. He walked over to me. Are you injured? I shook my head. I could not speak. He turned to his team. Get them out of here. Secure the scene. They hauled Chloe to her feet. She was covered in mud. She looked wild, feral. You set us up, she screamed at me. You knew. You let us bring you here. I looked at her. I did not recognize her. You brought yourself here, Chloe. I hate you. I hate you. Her screams echoed off the canyon walls as they dragged her down the trail. I watched until she disappeared into the mist. Then, and only then, did I let my legs give out. Detective Grant caught me before I hit the ground. The next few days were a blur of sterile rooms and legal pads. I gave my statement. I handed over the photos. I listened to the recordings. The evidence was overwhelming. Attempted capital murder, conspiracy, fraud. I sat in the district attorney's office in Seattle. The view outside was of the Space Needle, a testament to human engineering. Inside, my life was a ruin. They are looking at 20 years minimum, the DA said. He was a kind man, soft-spoken. But with the gambling debts, with the syndicate involvement, it is messy. What about the syndicate? I asked. We are working on it. But these groups, they are hydras. You cut off one head, 2 more grow back. That night, Detective Grant came to my hotel room. He looked tired. We intercepted a message from the prison. Julian tried to send word to his contact. He told them the plan failed. And the reply was simple. The debt remains. They will come after them in prison? Probably. Or they will come after the next available asset to settle the ledger. Me. Grant didn't answer. He didn't have to. I realized then that the nightmare was not over. The arrest was just the intermission. The debt was a living thing. I made a decision. It was the hardest decision of my life, harder even than standing on that cliff. I went to the bank the next morning. I liquidated my retirement accounts. I sold the stocks Thomas had nurtured for decades. I gathered $350,000. I met Grant at a coffee shop. I want to pay it. You cannot be serious, Evelyn. This is extortion. It is survival. You said it yourself. The law cannot protect me forever. And I paused. And I do not want them to die. Not even after what they did. They tried to kill you. I know. But I am still their mother, and I am still a human being. I will not have their blood on my conscience. I will pay the debt. But that is the end, Grant argued. He told me I was crazy. But eventually, he helped me set it up. A drop through an intermediary attorney. No direct contact. The confirmation came 48 hours later. The debt was cleared. The account was closed. 2 weeks later, I went to the damp, gray visiting room of the state penitentiary. Chloe sat behind the glass. She looked thinner. The orange jumpsuit washed out her complexion. She would not look at me. I paid the debt, I said. Her head snapped up. What? I paid the syndicate. You are safe. Julian is safe. They won't touch you inside. She started to cry. Not the angry tears of the cliff, but genuine, shocked tears. Mom, thank you. Oh God, thank you. I am so sorry. I will make it up to you. When I get out, I promise, I will take care of you. I will be the daughter you deserve. I watched her for a long time. I memorized her face. No, Chloe. What? You won't take care of me. You won't see me. Mom, please. I am leaving. I am selling the house. I am moving to Boston. I have old friends there. I am going to teach at the university. But you are my mother. Yes, I am your mother. and for 30 years I thought that meant protecting you from every sharp edge in the world. I thought love meant fixing, but I was wrong. I shielded you so much, you never grew skin. You never learned to bleed. I leaned forward, placing my hand on the cold glass. I saved your life today, by paying that debt. Consider that my final act of parenting. Mom, don't. I am not testifying for you at the sentencing. I am not writing a letter of leniency. You tried to murder me. You have to sit in that reality. You have to own it. Please. She was sobbing now, slamming her hand against the partition. Don't leave me alone. You are not alone. You have Julian. And you have the consequences of your actions. That is the only company you have earned. I stood up. Goodbye, Chloe. I walked out of the prison into the rain. It was a cold, driving rain, typical for the Pacific Northwest. But for the first time in months, I didn't feel the chill. I hailed a taxi. Where to? The driver asked. The airport, I said. I leaned my head back against the seat. I was 62 years old. I had lost my husband. I had lost my daughter. I had lost my home. My bank account was decimated. But as I watched the gray landscape roll by, I felt a strange, fluttering sensation in my chest. It was the beat of my own heart, strong, steady, mine. I had spent my life building structures for others, walls to shelter them, roofs to keep them dry. Now, finally, I was going to build a life for myself. The driver turned on the radio. A jazz song played, slow and melancholic. I closed my eyes and listened. I was alone, and it was the most beautiful feeling in the world.